with the next question, which is very related to the NIMBY problem, the not in my backyard. A sure way to stop a job creation within a local economy is NIMBYs, is the question, and or the statement. How do we overcome this perception? And I can tell you that's a really big problem with any kind of solid waste facility, even if it's a compost facility because of the smell, or just simple recycling facilities, let alone a landfill or another type of facility. Does anybody on the panel want to tackle the?
I'd like to address that as a local elected official. There's a lot of comments about NIMBYs, and I think we need to take responsibility for that ourselves in some ways. Until we have the best practices followed by the industry and can walk people through plants and show them that it's not a problem, that we've got a problem with the industry. That's one of the reasons the Good Green Jobs Conference is so important, because it's pushing for not just green jobs, but good jobs. It's pushing for quality standards in operations. It's pushing for not having odor at composting facilities. The only reason you have odor at composting facilities is bad management. Good composting facilities don't have that. Yes, we do need to figure out the streamlining of permits. On the organic side, other states are making it basically by right. Farmers can take organics and compost it. We are so tied up in knots in California, we aren't allowing that to happen. So yes, we do need to streamline the regulations, but as part of that, we also need to come up with where are the best practices. Come up with a list for reuse, recycling, composting, C&D. What are the model facilities that we want to show, so that when people have questions and real concerns, they can see them addressed well.
Yeah, Megan wants to, I'm sorry. Can we let Megan? Yeah, because I don't think.
I was just going to say, too, is when you do have a facility that maybe has found best management practices that are working, it's important to work closely with the citizens and the neighbors that are around, so that they can see the benefit of the facility that's there or what's going on at that. And also at the same point, it's oftentimes neighbors or citizens, they get, if the facility in the past has had bad odors, and now they've found out the best management practices, there's a stigma that sticks there. So sometimes there might need to be standards that are created, or ways to work with your LEAs to make sure that the neighbors now know that, yes, it has changed, maybe it now doesn't smell as bad, and that, there's a standard that the facility's being held to, and they can't go lower than that. So that's all I wanted to say.
Did you want to say something?
I was just going to there's a story that I heard about a compost operation up in Oregon, I believe, or Washington, that was getting ready to open up, and they held a great big grand opening, this big splash, invited everybody, did the ribbon cutting, the whole bit, but they were actually delayed in their construction, so they didn't open for 2 more weeks after the big splash, but they didn't tell anybody that. And as soon as they had that big splash, a big media event, the county started getting phone calls about odors at the compost facility and all this kind of stuff. And they're like, really? And they walked them through and showed them that nothing was happening. So sometimes it's just perception.
And that goes kind of with the possibility that maybe standards need to be created so that they can go and somehow test, an odor or something and say, look, I'll show you, it really doesn't smell that bad. So, and you can try it yourself.
Not every facility fits everywhere, and I work with. We've got 9 jurisdictions in my Joint Powers Authority. Some are bedroom communities, and some have manufacturing components. And if you're gonna do metal, plastic, paper, compost, you can't put those in a bedroom community. And if it's outdoor processing, outdoor storage, you can't put it in a light industrial. And I think a lot of times people get wedded to a piece of property, or they're looking to do something in the wrong place. When we sited a compost facility, we put it at the wastewater treatment plant. They've got access to the reclaimed water, and nothing smells worse than a wastewater treatment plant, even a well-managed one. But the compost operator still measured his gas, emissions and the constituents of those gases on a regular basis, so when there were complaints about his operation, he had a whole record about what was there. But he, it was cited in the right place, and I think we lose track of that sometimes. We think that every project can go everywhere, and it really can't. And we should be working. If you're working with a community that has an M1 base, if they've got land and they want to put manufacturing in, that's the place to go. Don't try to take it to a community that really isn't geared up to take it.
But we have seen facilities go in very appropriate locations, though, and still had a really tough time with NIMBYs. So that is a problem as far as infrastructure development. If we continued, as the public generally refuses them, we're not left with much choice. We have to really educate the public about the facilities. I've noticed in several projects we've worked on, it's just really making them aware, walking them through, and don't bring them in late to the process. Bring them in early so that they don't develop fear and rumor mills start, and then bad information gets around. I saw it, my doctor actually lives up in Tahoe and already emailed me, oh, you work, in that arena, we've got a biomass facility that's going in, and there's just total panic in the neighborhood. And I tried to get him calmed down because there was just a lot of misinformation because they just didn't know. So I think if you get to them early, it would really help.
Yeah, I was going to say that I can't emphasize that enough. One of our larger projects that we were involved in, we had over 20 neighborhood and community meetings as part of the environmental impact report process. And when the EIR finally got done, there were no negative comments, no challenges to the project. And this is probably one of the more rabid neighborhoods where a particular project could have gone. And people were stunned that had done other projects in that neighborhood far smaller scale than what we were talking about doing, because it was a utility project, and they were going, how did you do that? And it just goes back to what you were saying, is you've got to get out in those neighborhoods and get in front of the residents as early as you can with accurate information. You have to listen to what their questions are, and then you have to come back and talk to them and give them the information. You have to walk through that process here. That's just what you have to do.
Heidi, one other point is, in the LA Zero Waste Plan, we said decentralize it. Don't have all the facilities in one place and get into the environmental justice issues. Have multiple facilities of smaller scale scattered around in different locations, and it doesn't all have to be in your town. Decentralizing and putting it in the right place is really important.
Yep. Great. We're almost at the point where I'm going to turn it back over to Blaine so that we can all eat, because I know this has been a really long and an excellent discussion. But one last quick question, because I think this is important, especially since our legislative staff came all the way down. What legislative or administrative incentives can we get to promote jobs and domestic infrastructure in California? It's a very simple question, but it really gets to the root of why we're here. Is there anybody here that has a suggestion for the legislative staff to take away?
Where do I begin? I think the most significant thing that can be done, and we've been working at this with CalEd, Wayne Shell, and our board of directors, whatever, with the legislators at different levels, is first thing we have to do is we've been doing work with GoEd and getting that office up and running and keeping it up and running. That's the one thing that we've not had in California. You go to any website for Georgia, South Carolina, Texas, North Dakota, for crying out loud. They've got full-time staffs dedicated, focused on helping companies come and operate, helping companies that are in the state do things better. We need to have GoEd be permanently funded and not be subject to the whims that go on quite often in the political process, where one year you may have 25 staff and the next year you may have 2, and questioning whether or not it's even going to be around. Having a full-time economic development office that people can go to and help get projects done, help keep business in the state of California, that's, I would think, is the most critical thing we need to get done right now. There's a whole other laundry list after that, but you got to start with that.
Anybody else?
Heidi, the California Integrated Waste Management Act is AB 939, drives diversion in California, diversion since 1989. The third element of the preamble is market development. Okay, landfill conservation of resources, landfill avoidance, or whatever it was about landfills. But the third element is market development. And it's the least paid attention to. Market development at CalRecycle is a boutique program. The RMDZ program for all its good intentions, is underfunded. There was dedicated staff. It's no longer there. There was dedicated funds for that program for recycling market development. That money went away. There's barely enough money in the fund to do one large loan on an annual basis. But the whole focus of the act, the third element, the third leg of the stool, was market development. And it's never been paid attention to, and it's diminished and diminished over time. So I think a relook and re-energizing of that leg of the stool is particularly in today's economy and today's conditions in California, just makes all kinds of good sense.
And the Greater Stockton Chamber of Commerce is the only chamber that's the administrator of a recycling market development zone. And I think we're about at the end of our time. There's just a couple.
Could I just interject the incentives? The EPR has been talked about a bunch. Clearly, we need to go forward with the framework legislation. That's probably one of the most important things that we talked about here today. I think administratively, we could ask CalRecycle to encourage businesses and communities to adopt zero waste as a goal. And landfill surcharges, fees on wasting, and redesigning rate structures is really important. The CalRecycle has never dealt with collection because it wasn't asked by the legislature to deal with that. 80% of all the costs are in the collection of recyclables or waste. We need to get the legislature to say, focus on RFPs and contracts and help figure out how to get to a system where the incentives and the price signals are right in the marketplace to accomplish our goals.
I know we did that in the City of Napa contract. We made it so that the hauler actually made more money the more that got recycled. So there's a real benefit for the local hauler to do higher recycling rates instead of having their money income go down the more they recycled. That clearly doesn't send the right signal for the action of recycling. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and because there's there's questions, but I don't think that they're very, well, one is, it's not a short answer, and from Sonia, I can talk to you afterwards. So, Lynn? Okay, all right. I'll wrap it up then. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you for being part of the discussion. This is just the beginning. Well, after lunch, we'll be talking more about specifics, what we can do and do together going forward. And so I want to thank the Greater Stockton Chamber of Commerce for putting all the energy into putting this forum summit on. And I'll turn it back over to Blaine Bibb. Thank you very much.
Who's hungry? Yeah. So we're going to have a buffet-style lunch today. You'll get to go out to the... Apparently, Frank's not hungry.